Welcome to Accelerate My Practice. So glad you could join me here today. Today I'm going to have joining me Alex Nudel, the founder and president and just business genius overall from revenuewell. He's a wonderful friend of mine, someone I've known quite a few years, and someone who's a big influencer in dentistry. And so I'm going to spend the vast majority of this show today chatting with him by the magic of Skype, or in this case, Google Hangout, actually. So it should be a very, very fun interview. So with that being said, Alex, I want to introduce you and give you the opportunity to say a few things to the crowd and, just a little background on you for a moment.
Very good. Number one, I am the founder of revenuewell, and thanks for having me on your show. I am not the president. We have smart and better looking people than I am that are doing that. Basically, I've been in the dental field for about 20 years as a dental practice owner, as a manager, administrator, and basically looking forward to having a great conversation with you.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been great knowing you for a long time. One, you're networked really well. Your knowledge in dentistry is exceptional. You're married to a dentist. So it gives you a very personal understanding of the industry as opposed to just being some business guy who's not really tied into it. And so tell us how revenuewell evolved. Where did it come from?
Well, there's been a lot of challenges, and as you know, Darren, I am a dreamer, and I've used other systems before, many different systems that were out available, and basically had bits and pieces of different campaigning opportunities and different ways to connect with the patients. And basically, we decided that we were going to build out something that is an all-in-one application that allows us to reach out to our patients in many different ways. And my biggest challenge was we were doing so much work with the whole team, front desk and assisting staff, inputting information into the system, digital charts, perio charting, treatment planning. And the only thing that we were able to use out of that is being able to pull up some information kind of quick in front of the patient. And I really wanted to do a lot of data mining, and we had to actually build it ourselves. And I met up with Alex Nudel, Serge Longen, and Max Longen, and these guys made my dream a reality.
It's pretty impressive to me to be able to see, because one of the things, you go outside of dentistry, go to any other business, they're very, very good at data mining their clients, the opportunities within them. And you're right, outside of what you have created and maybe what Eaglesoft has, the ability to really find the opportunities from a business perspective, very, very limited. The vast majority of softwares, it doesn't exist. So it's awesome that you bring that capability into dentistry, and then more importantly, created a method to deliver that information in a very, very customizable, graphically pretty methodology that allows the patient to interact with the client better.
Absolutely, Darren. As an administrator, we get our doctors going to all kinds of different conventions, study clubs, and they come back and they have these big, huge changes that they want to implement. And it's been always tough. Today it's one thing, tomorrow it's another. And what we found out is it's a bunch of little things that we can do right away to implement things when we come back to work on Monday that really make a huge difference. And like you said, data mining is the best thing because Google does an amazing job on getting the name out and getting you exposure, but they don't know exactly what's going on in your practice, where revenuewell with its connectivity can definitely know exactly what's happening with your patients, and more than what's happening, what needs to happen next. So we are this amazing implementation tool. So take you, for instance. You're this wonderful consultant, and you're coming in and you're really doing a big job in changing people's lives, but the implementation is the most difficult part, and that's where we excel.
So run a scenario by, for those that might not know exactly what revenuewell does, a high-level scenario of you have this ability to accomplish this outcome. Because what I'm always talking about is what's the outcome you want, because most times people don't have clarity about the outcomes they want. And so run an example of a scenario that would be one that would be highly beneficial to the average office that might not have been exposed to something like yourself yet.
All right, so 3 things that revenuewell does extremely well. One is new patient acquisition. 2 is patient retention, and 3 is treatment acceptance. So treatment acceptance has been the biggest challenge in anybody's practice. For instance, you really have to propose 2 to 1. So the average practice has 50% treatment acceptance. And if you're a $1 million practice, that means you have $1 million of what they call the cracks in the practice, to where there's $1 million of diagnosed treatment, excuse me, that has not been accepted. And we really will do a good job in getting the treatment after the patient said, no, I'm not going to schedule. We go after that treatment with patient education videos, with possible links to finance options, and we make dentistry affordable again, and we educate the patients on why they should come back and do that procedure that has been proposed right now versus waiting for a while.
So for the sake of silliness, to compare and contrast, obviously I could make a postcard I could send out to somebody. How does revenuewell differ, aside from the immediacy concept and the fact it's cheaper because it's via email, but you guys have tracking built into this. Describe that a little bit, because I think that's a very important distinction.
Absolutely. So number one, when you're presenting a treatment plan, chances are you're sitting in front of a computer monitor. You're showing x-rays. You're showing intraoral camera pictures. You're showing patient education. You're doing co-diagnosing. And all of that is over once the patient leaves. So we go out and we continue that visual effect in trying to get that patient back by sending out the appropriate information to the appropriate patient at the appropriate time. Once we have that out, we know who read it and who actually scheduled and what they have done. Now, of course, revenuewell doesn't produce any dentistry. We don't actually decide when things go out, but ultimately, once the patient comes back, we're able to say, because of the campaign that went out, we got an X amount of revenue back for it.
You know, what I really like about that is there's an adage in marketing I'm sure you're familiar with, which is 50% of my marketing is not working. I'm just not sure which 50%. And what this gives you is the ability to track specifically, hey, I sent this out or I sent this promotion out, and I can now very concretely track and see and come up with an ROI calculator for this campaign versus this campaign. And now I can make educated decisions about which campaign I like the best and do I want to change them. And so to me, it's a brilliant thing to be able to have that accountability and trackability, whereas in any other circumstance, you generally don't have that. And so tell me, is in layman's terms, what's the best way to explain that to somebody? So if for some crazy reason they're talking to some other company and they want to understand, does their company offer this, to compare and contrast, should they leave whatever company they're with to come to revenuewell, what would be a good question they might be able to ask another vendor?
Well, I'll give you a scenario. For instance, insurance, end of the year insurance benefits reminders. Everybody needs to do it right now. So other companies say that, hey, we'll be able to get that information out. All you do is create a list of all the patients that have insurance and blast them. revenuewell goes a step further. Number one, when you're sending out mail, it's very tough to calculate the ROI. It's almost impossible. Most of the people at the front desk are so overwhelmed with their day-to-day operations, and then things happen in the office on a daily basis that basically keeps them from doing what they do really well. So when they send out this insurance campaign, they have no way of tracking what kind of procedures they actually did, how many patients received them, how many patients actually reacted to that campaign, and they're spending thousands of dollars in pushing it out. While through revenuewell, when we go out after insurance, we can say anybody that has, for instance, a certain amount of money left on their insurance balance, use it or lose it campaign, and we can track individually of every patient that made an appointment from that campaign, what they did when they came in, just to see if it's working or not. Or we can do a custom campaign and go after certain particular codes that you may have treatment planned before. So end of the year insurance mostly brings hygiene at the end of the year when we have nowhere to put them, but we can go after inlays, onlays, crowns, bridges by code, and we can implants, anything that you want to do, and track the success of it. That is huge. And most of our customers send it out by email. So it costs them zero, so the ROI is huge.
You know what I like about that, too often marketers like to take this shotgun approach. Let me just pepper everything. Let me throw it at the wall, see what sticks. And the brilliance of this is I can be laser focused. I can pull just a code. I can probably even pull a code with a date range to it, would be my guess, as good as you guys are. And so it allows me to be very, very hyper-focused and relevant to the patient rather than just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks.
100%. And we threw plenty of stuff at the wall before. But just like you said, the trackability of it. And we don't even know, we did not know if it worked or not. That's the whole thing. But we still did it because people told us to do it. And, you know, we did it at the wrong time. We did it when we had no opportunity of even putting them onto the schedule. For instance, end of the year insurance, we did in July because our August and September is typically slower than October, November, and December. So we were able to say, you know what, we're not waiting for you, dear patient. We're going to go at our convenience. And we did two things with it. One, we increased our production for August already, and we're seeing that all over the nation. And two, we're able to build out the September schedule with that as well. So that worked amazingly for us.
What are some of the other awesome things that are coming down the pike from revenuewell, either recently, if someone's had it and maybe not kept up with the latest enhancements, or some cool things that are coming in the future that you might be able to share with us?
Well, Darren, let me ask you a question. Do you recommend everybody having a morning huddle?
Absolutely.
So to create the perfect morning huddle, you need a lot of information. You literally have to go from chart to chart to chart to look at the patients that may be missing a future appointment for hygiene, that maybe their family members don't have one, that are, of course, under the age of 18, anybody that has a balance, anybody that has a treatment plan that is outstanding, anybody that is missing an email or a cell phone. This takes a long time to actually sit down if you have 20, 30, 40 patients on a schedule to produce. So revenuewell has created a morning huddle for you to where on the appointments tab, all you have to do is look to the right. You can actually print it out, and I'll give you all the information of the patients that you need to capture while they're there in their office. And it just saves a lot of time for the nice people that run the front desk. That has been really awesome for us.
I guess I answered the question correctly, since you went to a lot of work to create a form to find all this data. I'm really glad the right answer was no, I don't recommend morning huddles. I would have made a fool of myself.
It was not a trick question. And I know that you preach that morning huddle. We all have to be ready for that day. And unfortunately, we do it the day of. And sometimes things just slip through the cracks even on that. So we're helping the front desk be able to identify what's needed for the day. And it just becomes a much smoother and a happier place when you have that information right in front of you. A lot of the docs are looking at it from the day before because we're getting the information way in advance and they're getting what they need to get accomplished. So that was one of the greatest things I think that we just recently released. Of course, being able to fill the chair time. So sometimes you have last minute cancellations and you can't really help. Somebody may not be able to pick up their dog from the groomers, or something happened with one of the kids, or they have some kind of an emergency and they can't make it. So revenuewell has an ASAP list to where you can drop a patient in, but the new part of it is being able to identify whether it's a hygiene or restorative appointment, how long of the appointment do they need, what needs to be done. So if there is a last minute cancellation, you're able to reach out to the right patients that are trying to get in sooner or that fit that particular chair time and procedure and all the fun stuff that you need. So that's been really great for us as well.
You know, again, it's just a comment about your laser focus on the business outcomes you want. Instead of just give me a list of everybody who needs an appointment, give me a list of everybody who fits this particular appointment. Because otherwise I could spin my wheels for hours calling people only to have you say, yes, I'll come in, and go, oh man, I don't have enough time for you. And I just lost a lot of time in all that preparation. So, the theme I continue to hear out of revenuewell is laser focus, laser focus, laser focus. And it's an amazing, awesome tool to have from that perspective. What other brilliant insights can you share with us?
I want to step back just for one more second when you said the phone call, that marathon. So one of the things that we have is an optional phone call, but 80% of revenuewell users would like to get a text or an email or both. So we're able to kind of do those three things at the same time if you want, or one at a time, to reach the patient in their pocket. Because a lot of times they're really not able to take a phone call, because especially if 80% of the practices have 80% of their patients on insurance, so they're working. They're working the same times that we are. Just by hitting them on their cell phone has been the best thing for us. One of the greatest things that we've launched recently is our social media campaigner. Because as I travel the country, and I'm sure you do the same thing, we're looking at these people that have Facebooks and they don't use them. They don't use them because they don't know what to put on them. And sometimes they put inappropriate things and we wish they didn't. And sometimes they show that, hey, I know you can't afford a crown, but I just took my family on a $50,000 vacation. Look at me on a yacht, sport fishing. That's inappropriate. So we're doing two different things. We have created a campaign library to where it takes about 20 seconds to choose whether you want to do any restorative or hygiene or just put something humorous on. And we found that to be challenging as well. So we are presetting twice a week a social media campaign to condition the patients that you have over there to kind of enjoy their interactions and want more from you, as well as being able to feature right on the timeline our reviews. And what I've noticed is a lot of people are boosting these reviews to go outside their likes for new patient acquisition, because people are writing amazing stuff about our dentists.
Great comment, boosting the reviews. It's something that for whatever reason, so you just said it hadn't really dawned on me, at least in this moment. But yeah, fabulous idea. I mean, you got patients who are raving, especially if you get the patient who can put up the before after of their amazing case, their smile before, their smile after, and then an amazing review. Talk about something to go boost. And what we're always trying to encourage is obviously the patient's activity in this, as opposed to, too often I see doctors putting up their own comments on their Facebook, which is fine, but a limited audience sees it as opposed to if a patient does it. So the brilliance of what, again, I'm seeing here is laser focus on what it is you really want. The more focused you can be on what you want, it's amazing how often you get what you want as opposed to some other random thing. What other insights can you share with us today?
Do you think any of your clients would like free Google marketing?
I would assume they would probably love it.
Well, we have implemented the YouTube channel on most of our campaigns. So as you know, Darren, and you and I spoke about this in length, that the internet is built on videos today. So by putting YouTube videos and leading your patients to your YouTube channel, you can really talk about all of your digital technology. You can talk about the services. You can talk about your purpose. So, for instance, it's been very difficult to drive somebody to your YouTube channel. And we do it right off the bat. So from the time that a patient finds you, gets scheduled, we have a great welcome package. And with that welcome package, we do a welcome video. And once they see this welcome video, they get familiarized with a lot of the people that are in this, on staff, and see the doctors, see the technology, see what you have to offer, see how nice you are. And then they're landing and they're saying, oh my God, wait a second, this office has the ability to do same-day dentistry. Let me reach out to them and find out, do they have time to fix my crown, instead of just going in for the appointment first and then finding out that you need a crown, getting back. One of the things that we miss tremendously is we're misunderstanding what personal communication is today. And we're also misunderstanding of what patients' time value is. So because we value their time, we need to get out there way in advance and tell them, while you're in the office and you made it here, you should look at some of the things prior to. So the YouTube channel allows you to do many of that thing. We use it for happy birthday, happy holidays, our post-op instructions. And post-op instructions is kind of neat because you can say, look, we extracted your tooth, but I want to make sure that the implant is our next step. So the next step is something that is very important, even though most of the dentists and staff do talk about it, but to reassure them in a post-op video that your next step is this. If you have gone through root planing and scaling, your next step is perio maintenance, and the rest of the stuff that you do. It's been amazing, especially for new offices that are either remodeling or building from scratch. It has worked wonders for them because they can tell the story of, why is the doctor here? What are their goals? What are their purpose? And we've been really successful with that.
You know, one of the things, one of my favorite books is Simon Sinek's Start With Why, and I talk about his content a lot, and I think that's where you were ending right there, is the more you can find a way to connect with your patient, to share your why you're inspired to do dentistry, why you and your team are inspired to do dentistry, why you want to change lives, and that it's a greater purpose than just a paycheck. I think the deeper the connection will be, the greater the loyalty will be. Because the reality in business is we're all going to, sadly, have missteps every now and then. And if you have greater loyalty, when you have a misstep, it doesn't cost you a patient. If you have no loyalty of a misstep, you lose a patient. You know, it's one of Stephen Covey's content that he talks about the emotional bank account. If you make more deposits and withdrawals, you'll do well in the long run. So I like what I'm hearing here of connect them on their birthdays, post-op, before, after, during. You know, it's a life cycle of business approach to your patient and creating connection, not just transactions through that process. And the more you do, the greater the loyalty will be and the less likely you are to be influenced by the latest corporate dental practice that's set up just down the street from you.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are pretty smart. They're numbers guys. They're not the best caregivers, but they produce. And a lot of dentists, they want to do everything, but ultimately, half of our dentists don't market to their patients or market at all. So the tool is designed to be a patient care tool as well. Just think about it. If you, Dr. Kaberna, would go ahead and tell somebody that, hey, you need a crown, but once they leave, you never call them, you never followed up with them, you never send them anything. How important is that, and where's the value? Because just think about it. We're proposing preventative dentistry. We're not going after emergencies most of the time. Emergencies is only 25% of our business. But ultimately, when they come in for recare, we diagnose them, and we diagnose them for something that is not hurting, it's not bleeding, it's not swollen, it's not infected, but that's what we're trying to prevent. And that's why it becomes very difficult to get that message across. And we have been getting extremely good at it.
That's awesome. Any concluding thoughts you want to share as we wrap up?
Well, I think that, Darren, if I were to say anything that is possible, I just want people to know that we are trying to really help them do better dentistry the way that they want to. And as I travel the country, and you know, I'm 200 days on the road, in the cars with reps, in offices and everything else, I'm seeing our revenuewell dentists really step it up and get exactly what they want accomplished by getting their patients back in and getting them to say yes to treatment, accepting treatment in a much different way, and just being better at their game.
You know, ultimately, it's the same goal that we have. Our job, our concern is how can we help the patients get healthy? If we can help the patients get healthy, we know that the economics will solve themselves. The challenge is often economics appear to be a roadblock to patient health. And the more that we can make that easier, whether it's through building relationships or more effective communication, I think the better our odds are of getting our patients healthy. And that's really why everyone went to dental school in the first place, was to help their patients.
Yeah, but you know, they have become big business people because of people like you that are going out and really training them to start thinking. And thinking not just for now. Let's talk about where we're going to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10. And I've even heard you, let's talk about 20 years, how we're going to exit from here. And that's what I think everybody should start doing. But it's a lot of small things that you do on a daily basis that makes the biggest difference.
Totally agree. And the more you can automate those, the easier it gets. You know, Alex, I want to thank you so much for your time. I realize how busy of a person you are. And so for you to carve out a bit of time to share with us, to be here with us is very, very nice of you. I can't thank you enough for it. I know the vast majority of our clients are revenuewell clients as well. If you're not, please get in touch with them and learn more about it. At least be educated so you can make an informed decision about what's right for you and for your practice. And we've had scrolling across the bottom contact information for his organization the whole time. So that'll be available to you at any time. If you have questions, for sure contact your coach. And other than that, I thank you, Alex, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week, 8 a.m. Mountain, 10 o'clock on the East Coast. Until then, have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Dan.
What if you could have the practice of your dreams? What's holding you back? Imagine a life where you have everything you ever wanted.